There's a belief that the creation is fundamentally flawed, it's corrupted. And then we're confronted with that corruption, we're confronted with that injustice. And the fact of that corruption, that injustice, creates a barrier to believing in God. Because why would God allow this to happen? Now, from the perspective of Muslim, this is not a mystery at all. People die. Noble people die horrible deaths. Noble people die stupid deaths. Their bookcases fall over on them. They get run over by a donkey cart. People you love die. They get taken from you for no reason that you can see. Little children die. They die in horrible ways. They die in bomb attacks. They die drowning. We lose the people we love. We suffer in our own bodies and our own minds through the suffering of others around us, those we care about. This is Sunnah Allah fil ard. This is the Sunnah of God in the world. فَالَّذِينَ خَلَقُوا مِنْ قَبْلِ وَلَنْ تَجِدْ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا. You will not. This is the Sunnah of God in the world. This is what happened to people before you, and you will not find a change. You will not find any change in the Sunnah of God on earth. So you can get upset at God. You can say, "What kind of God would do this?" You can say, "You hate God." You can say all these things, but you are never deceived. God has made His Sunnah very clear to us in this world. You get diseases. You lose the ability to use parts of your body. Eventually your mind becomes weak. If you're blessed enough to live a long life. Otherwise you may die young. The good die. Evil people seem to triumph. It's like Game of Thrones. This is Sunnah Allah fil ard. No one has ever said anything different other than, where have you ever seen any evidence other than that? If you see evidence other than that, you saw it in a storybook or a movie or something like that. That's not reality. That is the reality of Sunnah Allah fil ard. And as Muslims, we accept that. This is not a crisis. This is not a broken world. This is the world that God created. This world is a blessing, a ni'mah. It's a rahmah from God. The very fact that we exist, that we ever have a moment of consciousness, that's a rahmah from God. The people we love, them being around us before they're taken from us, that's a gift from God. That He never had to give. He gave out of His mercy and His generosity. One, these things get taken away. This is zinat al-hayat dunya. This is the beauty of the life of the world, and it gets taken away from us. And it's wrong. It's wrong to be unduly attached to these things, because if you do, you are ignoring the Sunnah of Allah in this world. And why is this not a problem for Muslims? This is not a problem for Muslims. Because if we see in front of us a scale that's the side of a scale that seems weighed down so much by suffering and injustice and loss and wrong, that's not a crisis, because it's the other side of the scale. And the other side of the scale is the akhirah. If you believe in the akhirah, there's no problem. A child dies, a child drowns. This child is a martyr. In the afterlife, they'll have something greater and more lasting than anything you can imagine. The person whose good is rewarded, is met with harm and pain in this world, that person will be doubly rewarded in the afterlife, because they didn't receive a reward for their good deeds in this life. So the akhirah is the other side of that scale, where things balance out. And we know from the Quran that God will not wrong His servants in any way. God will not wrong His servants in any way. In one hadith, the Prophet, in Sunnah, Sahih Muslim, the Prophet says, "La yadlamu Allahu min khalqihi ahada." God does not wrong anyone from His creation. This is a principle, an absolute principle. So we have questions. You know, my neighbor, he doesn't seem to be religious, but he's a really good person. What's going to happen to him after he dies? You don't have to worry. God does not wrong anybody. Everybody will receive what they deserve in the afterlife. You do not have to worry about that. Ever. Someone comes and gives you, well, what about this situation? What about that situation? There's no question. There's no debate. God will not wrong anybody. Doesn't matter what permutation or reward you have to come up with, He will not wrong anybody. This is a fact in our religion. I remember when I was in Egypt once, this soon after I became Muslim, and there was the Imam was telling a story about these Sahaba, his companions of the Prophet, who died in a plague. Ta'un, that came during the time of the Prophet, or during the time of the companions. I remember thinking, that seems so weird. I mean, these people are such important people. They are part of this great drama. In a drama, people don't just die of plague. You don't have someone who's a great warrior and a great pious figure and a pillar of the Muslim community and the pillar of the religion itself, and then they just die of a plague. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense if you're reading a story, but it makes sense because that's a sunnah of Allah in this world. And I was very interested in that moment. The Khatib didn't have any problem telling the story, and the other people around me didn't bat an eyelid. It was only me who was concerned. I realized it's because of my cultural background growing up in the United States, where you're constantly taught that this world is a broken world. And this is basically something crucial in Christianity, which is that why does Jesus have to come and redeem people's sins? Because He is the other side of the scale. In this world, His blood comes and cleans the world of its filth. It repairs the corruption. For Muslims, there is no corruption in this world. There is nothing wrong with it. This is the Sunnah of God. And if you see something that seems unfair, that seems unjust done by God in this world, it's because the counterweight is in the afterlife. The counterweight is in the afterlife. And I always think it's very interesting when you look at books of Christian theology, there's a huge discussion about why bad things happen to good people. How do we explain the existence of evil in this world? How do we explain the existence of injustice? If you go to the bookstore, you'll find lots of books about this. Coping with loss, why do bad things happen to good people? In Muslim books of theology, there's like 2 lines. Actually, one of the lines we heard today in the Tawheed, God is not asked about what He does. You do not ask God why He does things. People are asked. God asks people what they do. God does not get asked what He does. As Imam Nawawi says in his commentary on Sahih Muslim, he says, injustice is impossible for God's truth. It is impossible. So if you have some question about, is this right, God? Is this fair? The answer is yes, by definition. It is impossible that it's not fair. It is impossible. God does not get asked. People get asked about what they do. And then, oftentimes in books of Muslim theology, there'll just be that ayah, and then there'll be verses of poetry, beautiful verses of poetry written by a Muslim scholar in the 1200s who heard about the sack of Baghdad by the Mongols in 1258. How many Muslim scholars died? If you look in biographical dictionaries of Muslim scholars, there's always people die 656, 656 Hijrah, that's 1258 Common Era. Why is everyone dying? They all died in the siege in the sack of Baghdad. So many great scholars, so many books destroyed, so many buildings destroyed, so much ilm lost. What did the scholar write in his poetry? He said, دع الاعتراض فما الأمر لك ولا الحكم في حركات الفلك. He says, don't leave aside any objections. This is not for you to object. Nor do you have the ability to command the movements of the heavenly bodies. لا تسأل الله عن فعله ومن خاض لقطة بحر الهلاك. Do not ask God about what He does. For the person who seeks to wade into the depths of the ocean will perish. Leave aside objection. It's not for you to object. Nor is it just like you don't have the ability to command the heavenly bodies. Don't ask God why He does what He does. because the person who wades into the depths of the ocean will perish. These are usually the only things you'll find in a Muslim discussion about why bad things happen to good people, why great cities are destroyed and everyone is lost. Because it is impossible for God to be unjust. And this world is an ordered and just place under His command. Things that seem unjust, you'll find the reward in the afterlife. Is that okay?